We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project, the radio show discussing honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Joe Kaiser on this edition of Illinois Rising. And Joe was talking about layering on more tax increases in Illinois. Various organizations do rankings and studies of state and local tax burden, separating out the various taxes, looking at financial stability. The Mercatus Center, many do this. Rich States, Poor States report that Steve Moore and Art Laffer do. And also Wallet Hub has been doing a lot of this research as well. They've come out with several new studies recently that offer some more insight into Illinois' tax burden in comparison to other states, our fellow laboratories of democracy, as it were. And turns out on the property tax issue, we continue to, arguably maintain our ranking as the state with the highest property taxes in the nation. Wallet Hub has us just ahead of New Jersey in effective property tax rate. I would dispute that, but I mean, we're arguing about the number of angels dancing on the head of a pin a bit. Also looking at taxpayer return on investment, total taxes per capita, combined state and local tax burden, all of those things that suggest how much you have to pay and what impact of quality of life you're willing to endure to be in a particular state. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Jill Gonzalez, who's an analyst with Wallet Hub, wallethub.com, to help provide additional context to their research. Jill, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you find that the highest total tax burden state with the number one is New York. Illinois is eighth, which this may shock you, but that comes as good news to us here. It seems like things are improving in spite of the policies we see around us. But give us a sense of the kind of the methodology behind the reporting that you guys do, and the purpose of it, so that kind of people get a better sense of where they fit in the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, we did do a separate report just on property taxes, where Illinois, to no surprise, I'm sure, to any of its residents, ranks dismally towards having the most expensive property taxes in the state. But we also looked at individual income taxes, sales and excise taxes, to get the overall tax burden. So more than a tax rate, that's really a ratio here of the percentage of your income yearly that goes to taxes in total. And in Illinois, that's just about 10%, a little bit over 10%, when you're combining your property tax, which makes up the most here, your income tax and your sales taxes, which are pretty high in Illinois as well. So that's why it's in the top 10, not really a top 10 list that you want to be in as far as that overall tax burden. But sitting at number 8, I'm sure is a surprise that it's not, 1, 2, or 3.
Now, the federal tax rates after the law signed, the bill signed into law by President Donald Trump have changed moving forward. How does that affect a higher tax state like Illinois, and especially one that has a high property tax burden of over 4% that you guys found, and relative to our neighboring states, Wisconsin 3.5%, Kentucky 2%, Indiana 2.3%. I mean, these are we're faring pretty poorly with our Midwestern neighbors. How does the federal anything in the federal level change that moving forward?
So most high tax states are not really going to benefit from the new tax law. Lower income states see most of the benefit here. States with more low or maybe middle income residents. So that's one thing that I don't think will benefit Illinois, especially with that SALT deduction, that state and local tax deduction cap. That's usually going to harm high tax states. So obviously we don't see that reflected this year, but next year when we're all filing, that's when we'll see some real changes. So that's just a projection, but it'll be interesting to see just how much these states do not benefit.
One of the other things that people want to kind of understand, get a handle on, is what am I getting for what I'm paying, right? What's the return on the tax dollars that I send to, in our case, Springfield? And in many studies I've seen that look at specific areas of state service, Illinois is in the bottom. For example, serving persons with disabilities. We're consistently one of the worst states in the nation, and that vexes a lot of people once they have become aware of this. But you guys did a study looking at essentially an ROI as well, tax dollars and return on investment through some measure of government services. I just wonder if you could explain how you guys made that calculation.
Yeah, so again, return on investment, and I think this time of year, a lot of people forget to think about their taxes as an investment. You should be getting something back for this. And Illinois was kind of middle of the pack. It ranked 26th overall, and that was mostly bogged down just by how high the taxes are. But the government services provided are actually pretty good. It ranked 15th overall for that. It did much better when it comes to education and health systems. It could use a lot of work when it comes to infrastructure, safety, and the overall economy, the job situation.
But when you look at, how do you analyze that? I mean, do you look at just kind of per capita spend in particular service areas, or is there an assessment on actually the quality of services that are provided or not provided?
It's both. So we look at the federal taxes paid versus the spending received by state. We look at total taxes paid per capita. And then we look at not only how much is being spent by category here, but also the quality, and really more so the quality. So everything from the quality of the public university system to K through 12 public schools to hospital beds and the quality of public hospitals to violent crime rates, et cetera. So we do really look at the quality here too, but in a quantitative way.
Do you have an idea of if Illinois, a state like Illinois, lowered its taxes, and let's just say property taxes, because that's the biggest burden that we face here, had some kind of reform for property taxes and lowered its tax burden, how would that affect the return on investment?
Well, in most of these cases, unfortunately, when tax dollars go down, so do a lot of the government-provided services, or at least the quality there that you get. So, yes, places like Alabama, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico have much smaller tax burdens, but they also have government services that the residents have been trying to see some increase in quality of for years. So I think that return on investment certainly does look different, and I think you get less of a return, especially when you're kind of used to one thing, as residents in Illinois are, and then maybe getting shafted for something else.
Well, just exploring this return on investment measure, and we'll stick with property taxes. So K through 12 spending in Illinois has increased in real dollars by 122% over the last 2 decades, and test scores are stagnant. It's actually about 20 times the rate of enrollment growth over that period. So we're actually not seeing outputs from K through 12 education that are materially better, despite dramatically increasing the spend per pupil at the K through 12 level. So how do you look at that spend and what's actually been produced and say, and make a determination on ROI?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's not many more metrics so much as public high school graduation rate. I'd be interested to see if that's increasing, if using some of those dollars to do alternative schooling is somewhere in the budget. But, you're right on track with most of the metrics here that can be used to gauge what's working and if the spend is validated. I think there's a couple more things to look at, but if not, then it doesn't necessarily need to be about increasing the budget, but more so spending what they're already doing, or maybe even a little less, more efficiently.
She is Jill Gonzalez. She's an analyst with WalletHub, wallethub.com, where you can find a number of studies they've done on state-by-state comparisons of overall tax burden, property taxes specifically, as well as that return on investment metric we were discussing. Jill, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.